Sigh. Finally kicked the bucket, huh? Don't say such things here. At the funeral of my father, he says the most outrageous things. To be honest, I never liked him. I bet he was a pain for the employees at the company too. Stop it. There are other people around. Huh? The one who should stop is you. Always looking down on me. This is the problem with privileged girls. I had never once looked down on my husband like that before we got married. I had tried my hardest at cooking and cleaning, even though I wasn't good at them. And yet. By the way, the inheritance is $7 million, right? I'm taking that. You have no right to object. You're just useless for chores anyway. I thought he might as well think that for now. He would regret it soon enough. Hey. Are you listening? If you don't like it, let's get a divorce. Saying that, he threw the divorce papers at me. Of all times, he was incredibly prepared for this moment. The smirk on his face was because he thought I wouldn't be able to divorce him. But I wouldn't let him underestimate me. I don't mind. My husband stood there with his mouth wide open. I left the funeral hall right after that. You'll regret this. You're a woman who can't do anything. Now, who will truly end up regretting this, I wonder. I immediately submitted the divorce papers and got a divorce. Then, I headed straight to the company my husband works for. Without any hesitation, I went directly to the CEO's office and swung the door open. My husband was unaware. He didn't know that I was the CEO of my father's company with 5,000 employees. I will cancel all contracts with you. With just these words, my husband would fall into hell. I am Emily, and I recently turned 26. I met my husband James through my father's introduction and got married. At first, he seemed very rational and a good young man. Emily, I finally found the perfect young man for you. You're drunk again. I can find my own partner for marriage. My father loved his liquor and would come home drunk nearly every night. There had been times before when he introduced me to men whose backgrounds were completely unknown to me, thinking it was under the influence of alcohol. I thought this time would be no different. You're still mad about the past, huh? If that's the case. But, this time it's different. He seemed quite confident this time. He had a good eye for people when sober, but it seemed alcohol clouded his judgment. No matter how much I refused, my father kept pushing this man on me. But I had my own plans. I thought, he's just drunk now, and he'll forget once he sobers up. That was naive of me. For the next week, whenever he had the chance, he kept asking me to meet him just once. Enough. I have no intention of meeting him. Please, just do this for me. I promise you won't regret it. Once my father made up his mind, he would do anything to see it through. He's a born stubborn. Perhaps that's why he's now the president of a large corporation with 5,000 employees. I'm no less stubborn myself. I've fully inherited my father's obstinacy. After repeating the same conversation over and over, my mother, seeing enough, stepped in to mediate. Why not just meet him once? Even you, Mom. That's my wife. You know your father won't give up, right? But think about it. Has he ever been this insistent about introducing someone to you? Upon reflection, it's true that he has never pushed anyone on me this much before. You have an idea, right? Of course, we wouldn't let our precious daughter meet someone without vetting them first. You know what to do if he turns out to be strange, right? My mother was smiling warmly, but my father, knowing her true nature, couldn't oppose her. It seems she wasn't as polite when she met my father. Apparently having been quite the rebel. Meeting my father changed her, although there are times she still scolds my father in a strong tone. I understand that. So, Emily, what will you do? It's ultimately up to you. I was really torn because I understood what my mother was saying. All right. I'll meet this man Dad's been talking about. That's my girl. I'll arrange a meeting right away. My father acted quickly, and a meeting with the man was set up just 2 days later. His decisiveness was something I needed to learn from as well. And then, the day of the meeting arrived. It turned out this man was someone my father had met at a pub he frequents. I had been there during my student days but hadn't visited in a while. Feeling a bit excited about going there. There he is. The man noticed us too and waved. He looked neat and well-mannered at first glance. Thank you for waiting. This is my daughter, Emily, who I've told you about. My name is Emily. My father always speaks highly of you. I'm James. It's actually me who has been under your father's care. As we talked over drinks, I hadn't had such an enjoyable time in ages. The conversation was engaging, and before I knew it, I was drawn into his stories. I could see why my father liked him. About James here, he seems to be quite talented. Just when we were looking for a new contractor, James' company turned out to be a perfect match. He's been our point of contact. So, you went ahead with the contract? Well, yes, that's about it. Actually, I've been the one benefiting here. Thanks to that, I was able to get a promotion. Indeed, I felt James was someone I could trust. If I were in the same situation, I might have done the same. The conversation continued, ranging from work to light-hearted chit-chat. My father was quite drunk by then and started saying outrageous things. Emily here looks every bit the lady, right? That's why I want James to teach her a few things. Dad, please. She's also a bit naive about the world. Then, my father leaned over the table and fell asleep. As I sighed, James began to laugh. What's so funny? Just thinking about the tough times you must have had. It's more than just tough times. I'm always being dragged around by him. I see. Talking with a man usually made me wary, but with James, I felt like I could show my true self. If it's okay with you, could we meet again? Yes. I responded naturally. In the end, my father didn't wake up, and James ended up carrying him back. By then, it was nearly midnight. Mom. Hi, Emily. Drunk again, huh? Really? My mother was clearly exasperated. Then, I'll be off. Wait. It's late, so why don't you stay over tonight? Mom. We have a spare room. Emily, show him to the guest room. Okay. I led James to the guest room. Sorry for the trouble. No, my mother likes to take care of people. Please, this way. Thank you. After that, I returned to the living room. To my surprise, my father, who I thought was asleep from being drunk, was awake. Normally, once he falls asleep drunk, nothing could wake him up. Dad. You were awake? Since we were at the pub. Pretending to be asleep? Correct. I thought it might be good to let you two talk alone. And it seems you both get along well. You're going to meet him again, aren't you? So you heard all that. It felt like I was being manipulated by my father. But James seemed different from the other men I had met before. Then it's good. Yeah. Right. Did you show him where the bathroom and toilet are? Ho. Then take this chance to show him, along with bringing a towel. Heading to the guest room, I heard a voice from inside. It's fine. I'll handle it. This will make things easier for Mom. It sounded like he was on the phone. Don't hold back. After all, she's quite the lady. From talking to her, she seems easy to sway. Leave it to me. I realized I had overheard something I shouldn't have. While thinking this, I knocked on the door. It was too late for regrets. James came out. Is something wrong? My mother asked me to bring you a towel. And to show you where the bathroom is. I see. Thanks a lot. James looked entirely normal. Was what I heard just my imagination? Still, asking him directly about it was out of the question. As time passed, I forgot about that incident, never imagining it would lead to what happened next. Later on, I ended up going on a date with James. He was a perfect gentleman, always looking out for me. Given my limited experience with men, it was only natural that I found myself drawn to him. By the way, Emily, you work in administration, right? Yes. Though it's somewhat because my father insisted. I see. So, you might become the president someday? I couldn't possibly handle that. At that moment, James had an indescribable expression on his face. It looked like disappointment. Changing the subject, you don't need to use formal language with me. Oh. Sorry. I've had a lot of interactions with people senior to me. So I guess it's a habit that's hard to break. Then, I guess it can't be helped. But, you don't need to use formal language with me either. Understood. Got it. After that, we went on many more dates. Eventually, James proposed to me, confessing his feelings at the same time. Though I was surprised, by then I couldn't imagine being without him. I'm so happy. If I'm good enough for you. I love you, Emily. We immediately reported our decision to my father. I see. I am, of course, all for it. Yes, I think it's a good match. Thank you. I will definitely make Emily happy. I'm entrusting my daughter to you. James. Yes? Emily is our precious only daughter. We've raised her with utmost care. Keeping that in mind, I'm entrusting her to you. My mother's face had a serious intensity. No one could defy her after such a statement. Even James seemed nervous. Emily's mom is quite formidable. My mother was quite wild in her youth. Even my father doesn't dare to challenge her. I see. I better be careful then. What happens when she gets angry? Probably, no one can handle her. We then visited James's family home. His father had passed away when he was in elementary school, and he was raised by his mother. Nice to meet you. My name is Emily. I plan to marry Emily here. So, Emily. My son has told me wonderful things about you. I still have much to learn. Please take good care of my son. Yes. The greeting went well, but something bothered me. Throughout, his mother hardly made eye contact with me. And seemed like she wanted to say something to me. Now we can finally become husband and wife. Yes. I will make you happy. On our way back, we submitted our marriage registration, becoming husband and wife. As a wedding gift, my family provided us with an apartment. To think we could live in such a place. I can't thank your father enough. And so, our married life began. Though I lacked confidence in household chores, James's support gradually eased my anxiety. I had no doubts we would build a happy family with children in the future. However, that belief would soon crumble due to a certain event. 3 months after getting married, I received a call from my mother saying my father had been hospitalized. According to her, years of drinking were to blame. Dad. You came. Of course, I would come if I heard you were hospitalized. Seems my liver's in pretty bad shape. I told you to be careful about this. Anyway, are you here alone today? James is at work today. I see. He must be busy now that he's climbed up the ranks. How's married life going? Good. He's been really kind. And even though I keep messing up the chores, he's gentle about it. Then I made the right choice introducing him. I regularly visited my father in the hospital, but James, citing work as a reason, never came with me. A month after my father's hospitalization, James, who had been so kind before, started becoming distant. "You're not going to the hospital today either?" "Sorry, I can't today. There's something I absolutely have to do." "Please go on your own. Can't you even spare a little time?" "Didn't you hear what I said?" "Eh?" "I said I'm busy." "I'm sorry." I had never been treated so harshly before, leaving me confused. I tried to figure out if I had done something wrong, but couldn't find an answer. Attempting to discuss it only seemed to irritate James further. "Can't you think for yourself a bit?" "I have thought about it, but I don't understand." James sighed as if he was exasperated. "And I've been meaning to say, stop with the formalities. It's irritating. But you said it was okay." "I don't care if you're some lady or whatever, it's just weird." "That's so. And your cooking is terrible, and you can't clean properly either." Feeling like everything about me was being rejected, I couldn't help but cry. "Don't cry over this. Do you think crying will make everything okay?" "I didn't mean to. Just go away." I fled towards my father, wiping away my tears before entering his hospital room, only to find it empty. Apparently, my father couldn't stay put. A nurse informed me that he would likely be in the recreation room around this time. When I arrived, I found my father happily chatting with people of various ages. His inherent brightness and approachability making him well liked among the other patients. "Dad? Your eyes are red. What's wrong?" "It's nothing. Let's move to my room for now." "Okay." We returned to the hospital room, but I didn't know what to say. "Did you cry?" I couldn't find the words to respond. "Is it because James hasn't come today?" "No, it's nothing like that." Father started to say something but then stopped. "Anyway, you can talk to me or your mother if something's up, okay?"
Yeah.
He said that, but I couldn't possibly bring myself to talk about it. I was embarrassed, and more than that, I felt it was too soon to have problems given we were newlyweds. I left my father and returned home. "Back already? How's your dad?" I thought James would at least be concerned. When I told him my dad was doing well. "Oh? He's fine?" His reaction was completely different from what I expected. Far from being concerned, he seemed almost upset. "Why would you say that?" I felt like crying again. Crying again? Parents die eventually. It's just a matter of sooner or later. I was speechless. How could someone say such a thing so calmly? The kind James the first knew was nowhere to be found. "I'm tired of talking. Are we done here?" "Wait, please." James ignored me and went somewhere else. Why did I have to be treated this way? From that point on, James's considerate behavior vanished. "What's this? You said you wanted to eat it before." I tried making beef stew. At that moment, I must have been blind. I tried my best to cook, thinking that somehow James would return to the kind person he once was, no matter how harshly he treated me. "Are you mocking me? How could anyone eat this?" James stood up abruptly, plate in hand, and walked to the kitchen. In front of me, he threw it in the trash. I'd rather eat a microwave meal than this. Who could have imagined things would turn out this way? As my spirits hit rock bottom, my only comfort was my father. I believe he had a good idea of what was happening to me when I last visited him. Still, he never brought it up. As I was about to leave. "Emily, you don't have to worry about anything." "What do you mean?" "Just do what you want to do." "Okay." 3 days later, my father's condition suddenly worsened. Your father's condition isn't good. You should come to the hospital. I left work early and rushed to the hospital. My father was motionless in his bed. The doctor said we should prepare ourselves. My mind went blank. My father, who had seemed so lively just before, now couldn't even speak. I informed James, but he showed no reaction. It was the first time I truly realized it was the end. 2 days after being told to prepare myself, I was at the hospital. Dad, can you hear me? My father's life was hanging by a thread. Honestly, I wasn't sure if my voice even reached him. Still, I continued to speak to him. Then, slowly, he opened his eyes. Dad. It's me, Emily. He desperately reached out his hand towards me. I grabbed and held it tightly. His hand was so cold, it made me wonder if he was really still alive. Emmy. Emily. I'm sorry. His voice was barely audible. That would be the last thing I'd hear him say. I didn't understand why he apologized. Tears didn't come, it was as if they had dried up. Emily. Even my mother, who rarely showed her tears, was crying. Despite being surprisingly calm, I immediately called James. What? Dad passed away just now. Oh? Finally kicked the bucket, huh? He began to laugh loudly. Are you serious? It's not a joke. If that's all, I'm hanging up. The call ended. What happened? I just called James, but despite having cried moments ago, my mother's expression turned fearsome. He did what? Inspired by my mother's fury, not only did my anger and loathing for James grow, but my manner of speaking began to change as well. Emily. Yes. I straightened up without thinking. You understand what I'm trying to say, right? I shook my head. You'll tell me everything that's happened up to now, won't you? I understood. My mother, like my father, must have sensed that something else had been going on. At this point, there was no hiding it. After saying goodbye to my father, we moved to the lobby to discuss everything. As I spoke, my mother's face became increasingly frightening. Even people around us started to keep their distance, seemingly intimidated by her. Such an unbelievable man. What shall we do with him? What can we do? He needs to experience hell on earth. Can I really do that to James? There's no need to be shy about a man like that. While staying at my parents' house and preparing for the funeral with my mother, James never answered my calls. Moreover, he had applied for leave from work. The funeral was set for the following day. That's when a lawyer arrived at the family home. Apparently, it was time to open my father's will. Let's proceed with the opening of the will. I see. The tension about the contents of the will shifted to surprise as it unfolded. The first page bequeathed the family home and assets to me and my mother. So, it's up to me to keep the house safe, then. But can you manage alone? Leave it to me. Who do you think I am? Right. And what's on the second page? Yes, the second part is for Emily. For me? Please read this. I was shocked by the first sentence. It stated that my father's company's presidency was to be transferred to me. Why me? Your father must have really believed in you. But it's too much for me. You can do it. After all, you're the daughter of your father and me. If my father believed in me, I had no choice but to respond to that trust. I'll try my best. As we continued, the will included an apology for introducing me to James. This was what my father had apologized for in the hospital. He couldn't have realized what kind of man he was. And maybe I should have been stronger. It's not your fault. Don't put yourself down. Thank you. The lawyer then hesitantly spoke up. Actually, there's one more piece. There's more? When my mother read the last piece, she started laughing. I see. He really thought of everything. Can I see? Yes, go ahead. It contained advice for me as the new president on how to deal with future challenges. What do you think? This could actually be a great way to get back at him. You're looking better already. Keep it up. Then, I noticed something else. Huh? There's something written on the back too. The back? It instructed me to check a drawer in the president's office. The president's office, huh? What could he have hidden there? Why don't you go check it out now that we're prepared? Okay. I headed straight to the president's office and opened the drawer. Inside was an envelope, which I cautiously opened. Is this? I immediately showed it to my mother upon returning home. Mom, I want you to see this. Her surprised expression showed even she was taken aback. When did he have time to do this? With this and the will, it's all wrapped up now. How could it get this bad? It just goes to show you can't judge a book by its cover. Has that man contacted you? No callback or anything. While we were talking about this, James called. Hello? When's the funeral? It's tomorrow. Tomorrow, huh? I'm actually on a trip right now. Well, I'll try to make it if I can. That's fine, right? It's fine. Huh? You sound different. I don't think I do. Was he really unable to understand? It just showed how superficial everything was. Right. I wanted to ask something. What's happening with the inheritance? Inheritance? I looked at my mother, who probably realized who was on the phone. She nodded without saying anything. We just opened the will. Huh? I didn't hear about that. Oh well, you didn't answer your phone. So how much was it? About $7 million. $7 million, huh? Got it.
Bye.
Then. The call ended. What was that? He wanted to know how much the inheritance was. All he cares about is money. Though, I kind of expected that. But it's all for nothing. Right. The next time we see him will be the end for that man. The day of my father's funeral arrived. As expected, James didn't show up. After the service, as I was greeting the attendees, James finally appeared. Hey. I made it. At least pay your respects to my father. You owe him that much. Sounds like a hassle. I'll pass. I was about to lose my temper but managed to hold back. Sigh. Finally kicked the bucket, huh? Don't say such things here. To be honest, I never liked him. Always pushing drinks on me. And when I'd indulge him, he'd get all smug. That's harassment, you know. Must have been tough for his employees too. Stop it. There are other people here. People around us started to look and whisper among themselves. Huh? The one who needs to stop is you. Always looking down on me. That's the problem with you high-class types. Looking down on you? I never did such a thing. I had worked hard to cook and clean for James, despite not being good at it. And yet. By the way, the inheritance was $7 million, right? I'll be taking that. You don't have any right to object. You're just good for menial tasks anyway. He might think that now, but he'll regret it soon enough. Hey. Are you listening? If you don't like it, let's get a divorce. Saying that, he threw the divorce papers at me. How well prepared he was for this moment, of all times. His smirk must have been because he thought I couldn't possibly divorce him. But I wasn't going to let him underestimate me. I don't mind. James was left gaping. I left the funeral home right then and there. You'll regret this. You can't do anything on your own. Who will end up regretting, I wonder? So, you came all this way just to say that? Thank you. What? Maybe it's best if you leave now, with everyone gathering around. Damn. Remember this. He left the funeral home as if fleeing. He actually showed up, huh? You saw? Well, yes, with all that commotion. And what are you planning to do with that? Pointing at the divorce papers in my hand. I'm going to submit it right away, of course. Good. Hurry up then. You do what you need to do. I'm off. I immediately signed and headed to the courthouse to submit the divorce papers. That solves one problem. I then headed straight to the company James works for, as per the advice in the will. Without hesitation, I went directly to the president's office and opened the door. James didn't know. He didn't know that I was the president of a company with 5,000 employees. The president of this company had also attended my father's funeral. Thank you for your attendance earlier, President Irvin. Well, I don't know what to say at times like this. I came here today because there's something important I need to discuss. Something important? Actually, I will be taking over my father's company as the new president. Is that so? Therefore, all transactions with your company will be terminated. I'll explain the details later. Please wait a moment. You'll find the details in this envelope. But please don't discuss it with him yet. Goodbye. With that, my first act as president was done. Well, officially, it's just starting. Irvin tried to follow, but I got into the car that was waiting for me. The next day, while I was in the president's office, Irvin brought James with him. We deeply apologize for the trouble our employee has caused. No need for apologies. Why is Emily sitting there? Even if she was your wife, she's the president here. President? We're divorced now, so I'm not your wife anymore. Did you have a chance to look through the envelope I gave you yesterday? Yes, we did investigate immediately, and it turned out to be true. What are you talking about? James, it's about you embezzling our company funds. James's face showed shock. Did you really think it wouldn't come out? Don't underestimate me. What will happen to him now? He will be terminated, and we are also considering claiming damages. Well, that seems fair. But I have your inheritance. I can pay with that, no problem. Are you serious? Even if we're divorced, I should still have a right to it. What are you talking about? Even Irvin seemed taken aback by James's audacity. You should at least study the basic laws if you're going to be a working adult. Let me say this. James made a move towards me, but was swiftly restrained by a sturdy secretary known to me since her father's time. Hey. Let go of me. Causing a scene here will only be a bother. Just throw him out. James was dragged out of the president's office. I never thought he'd be that terrible. Being married to such a man will forever be a stain on my life. About the contract. Let's discuss that once this matter has settled down. Also, James is responsible for the termination of this contract, right? A moment of silence passed. Yes. We'll take care of that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Left alone in the president's office, I ran my hand over the desk. The thought of my father sitting there was deeply moving. Now, it was up to me to steer the company in the right direction. I'm so tired. You did well. Maybe I should have gone to see it. No, if you were there, you definitely would have started something. I wouldn't do such a thing. That face says otherwise. Later, while staying at my parents' house, James showed up. "What are you doing here? It's your fault I got fired. I'm in a lot of trouble now." "That's your own doing. Committing a crime and still having the nerve to say that. But there's the inheritance." "Still on about that? Do you know about property division?" "Of course. So, half of it is mine." "Unfortunately, that's not going to work. Inherited assets don't count. Try as you might. Then that house is." "That was originally my father's." Then, her mother appeared from the back. "So, you're here." James might have thought he was in trouble now. "How dare you toy with my daughter? I wonder how you'll make amends." In her hand, for some reason, was a metal bat. "So, what are you going to do? What do you want us to do?" James started shaking violently. "That's why you better leave quickly. Even I can't stop my mother." Then James ran out of the house, screaming a murderer. Emily and her mother exchanged glances and couldn't help but laugh. "Did you see his face?" "Of course. He was on the verge of tears, wasn't he?" This was the first time I felt such a sense of relief. However, the story didn't end there. A few days later, an unexpected visitor came. "Why are you here?" It was James's mother, of all people. I just had to apologize. It turned out that James had been after the money from before they even got married. There had been signs, after all. The discomfort I felt when I first stayed overnight. And greeted his mother, it was all making sense now. "I'm truly sorry. Please don't apologize. It's not your fault." Afterward, my mother listened to James's mother's story, and they seemed to grow closer. That positive relationship continues to this day. James, burdened with a huge debt, now works from dawn till dusk. His hellish days continue, and I wouldn't mind if they lasted forever. I thought, I need to work hard too. I am now acutely aware of how great my father was as a president. I aim to surpass my father's achievements through daily effort.